angels, it's Haley Reese and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am truly so grateful that you are here, and I do hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic, beautiful, wonderful, all of the good things, morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. First and foremost, I absolutely cannot believe that we are halfway through this year's 31 days of Halloween. What? Like, I can't even believe how quick time is going, but I have to just take this moment to tell you guys that I have been having the absolute best time ever with you this month, and I'm just so grateful that you are here, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying it thus far. For those of you who are new, or maybe you don't know what I'm talking about, if you are watching in October of 2024, I am uploading a new video every single day this month from now until Halloween, as I do every single October. 31 days of Halloween. I just cannot wait to complete this month with you guys. I've really enjoyed the content that's been posted thus far, but the last 2 weeks of this month, things are leveling up. So if you are yet to be subscribed to my channel, but you enjoy my content, now would be an amazing time to click that subscribe button, join our family so you don't miss a video. And yeah, but today, we are diving into a true paranormal experience that I have not been able to stop thinking about. This experience is chilling. It truly gave me goosebumps. I'm sure it's going to shock, chill, and just blow your mind watching this. So without further ado, let's dive into it, because this paranormal experience is absolutely bone chilling, and you will be thinking about it all day or night. So this experience begins with a woman named Bridget. Now, all of Bridget's life, she experienced a great deal of trouble. Everywhere she went, it seemed as though trouble followed her, darkness followed her, and she never had a spiritual foundation to fall back on because of this. You know, Bridget never believed that there was more to the other side or more to life than met the eye, because to her, she couldn't fathom a world in which she would go through the things that she did and would, and yet still be spiritually supported. None of it made any sense to her. And so all growing up, Bridget was what you would call a lone wolf. She really just traveled alone, and she'd never found her pack. And so when she would turn just 18 years old and be met with 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test, her entire world would just flip upside down. Now, at the time, the father of the baby was not someone that she was in a relationship with. In fact, it wasn't necessarily someone that she was particularly close with in general. And unfortunately, he didn't want anything to do with the baby. But Bridget felt like this was her first sense of family. And from the moment that she knew life was growing inside of her, she knew that there was no world in which she wouldn't be connected to this baby and just absolutely love it. And so she decided right from the beginning that she was going to do this alone. And throughout the 9 months, that was what she did. She prepared the nursery. She prepared herself. She took parenting classes. She learned all that she could. And a beautiful baby girl was placed in her arms 9 months later. Now, unfortunately, Bridget would not disclose what exactly would happen to her baby girl, but a couple of months after her birth, unfortunately, she would pass away. And this just devastated Bridget. Bridget said that everything she'd been through up until this point in life was nothing. It was child's play compared to the pain of this loss. She tried to pick herself back up after the loss of her daughter, but she just couldn't find it in herself. And ultimately, she had gotten to a point where her pain was so deep and so significant that being here without her daughter was absolutely unfathomable. And Bridget decided that she didn't want to be here without her daughter. Now, during this moment, she had decided that before she would make any such decision, she was going to write a letter to the only family she'd ever known, and that was her daughter. The family that had raised her, they were barbaric in her terms, and so this was the only soul that she'd ever truly connected with. So she decided to head to a place that was significant to her in her childhood. It was a little creek on the outskirts of town that she had found one day when she'd ran away from home. Now, this creek wasn't near any other homes or any civilization, but if you walked about an hour or two outside of the city limits, you would find it. And it was where she did a lot of her thinking. On this particular day, Bridget had made up her mind and decided that she was going to go and write this letter to her baby girl. So she positioned herself right next to the water, pulled out her favorite leather yellow journal, and began writing to her daughter. She said that as she began writing, the tears just flowed until she was unconsolably crying. And while she didn't believe, she found herself praying to a God, begging for any of this to make sense to her. And that was when she would hear rustling from the trees behind her. Now, at first, she didn't pay it any mind. She thought for sure it was a squirrel or a rabbit or something explainable. But as she would turn around, a tiny little boy would emerge from the forest. And as he would wander, he would come and sit right next to her. Bridget said the little boy looked to be around 4 to 6 years old. She couldn't quite pinpoint it because while he had such a tiny little build and such a tiny little frame, he had this wisdom about him. You see, this boy sat down next to Bridget and looked her right in the eyes and asked why she was crying. Now, for some reason that Bridget cannot explain, she turned to the little boy and told him that she was crying because she'd lost her baby. The little boy reached his arm up and placed it on hers and told her that it was okay, that her little baby was fine, that she was in heaven, and not to give up. Her miracle was coming. So imagine you're in the middle of like a forestry area next to a creek where there's no houses around, and a little boy between the age of 4 and 6 comes wandering out of the forest, sits down next to you and tells you that your miracle is coming. So she looked at him and she asked him, like, where's your mommy? And the little boy just smiled and told her, my name is Mateo. Now, she remembers specifically seeing the smile on his face when he told her this, and the two of them sat by the creek for a couple of minutes. She remembers just feeling this sense of peace, and all of the emotions that she had before were there still, but in a new way. For some reason, this little boy was giving her some sort of hope, and she couldn't explain why. Bridget says that she remembers looking up to the sky and telling God, if this was my sign, show me. And as she comes back to, she looks to her right and there is no little boy. She begins running through the forest looking for him, imagining what it would be like for his parents, for him to have just disappeared in the middle of a forest. But she couldn't find the boy. For days, she would search local papers. She even went to the police department and told them her experience, and they couldn't find anyone that had been reported missing matching such description. She was perplexed. But somehow, she was changed. You see, Bridget couldn't pinpoint it, but there was something about Mateo that gave her a new chance at life. And suddenly, Bridget decided that she was going to rewrite her story. She wasn't going to allow what her parents had put her through to define her life path. And she went on a whole spiritual journey to which she would later find her husband, get married, and have her happily ever after. When Bridget would find out that she was pregnant and find out it was a baby boy, she felt as though the only proper name for the baby was Mateo, because it was that little beautiful boy that had given her the hope to go on. And it was because of that beautiful little boy that she had any chance at a family of her own. Things would have ended much different had she not ran into Mateo that day. And so she named her little boy Mateo. And a couple of years later, she, her husband, and Mateo would settle down and call home by that creek. They would buy property not too far from the creek, build their dream home and begin living their lives together. This time, Mateo was around 5, and Bridget felt like their connection to the other side was stronger than ever. She'd started praying. She felt her angels around her. And one afternoon, as she was making dinner, she noticed that Mateo was gone for quite some time. She looked out back and she didn't see him. So she ran to the garage and asked her husband where Mateo was, and he said, "Oh, he was outside playing. I have no idea." She begins to imagine the absolute worst and starts running everywhere looking for her son, screaming for Mateo. And that's when she imagines that he's down by the creek, and she begins to panic that something could happen to him unattended by the creek. So she starts walking towards the forest that leads towards the creek. And that's when little Mateo comes running out with the biggest smile on his face. Now she goes to give Mateo trouble and tell him that he can't run off into the forest without an adult. And that was when he proceeds to tell her that he wasn't alone, that he was with an adult. She looks at him strange because they're the only home within miles. And she proceeds to ask him who exactly is the adult that he was with in the forest. He tells her it was a nice lady by the creek, that she was crying, but that she's smiling now. Now, she finds this very strange. Again, there should be no adults in the forest, and especially not by the creek. She starts to grow concerned as to who could be out there and who her son was talking to. When he smiles and says, "She kind of looked like you, Mama." She even had a yellow journal. I have goosebumps. She even had a yellow journal. Now, immediately, she takes Mateo and they walk towards the creek. There's no sign of the woman, no sign of anybody else out there, but Mateo is certain that he saw a crying woman by the water that he spoke to with a yellow journal. Now, what this means, Bridget isn't quite sure. She thinks perhaps somehow her son had come to her that day, that it was Mateo all along, and that's why he'd disappeared. How? She has no idea how it makes sense. But all she knows is it seems as though her future son came to save her, to save the life of his mama. But somehow it still happened years later, when Bridget was happy and living her true life. Now, what exactly this experience means, whether it's a glitch in the matrix or some sort of paranormal experience, or even if it's coincidental that Mateo met another woman who was crying with a yellow journal by the water. Nonetheless, I think it's a true testament to the fact that we are not alone. There is so much more to our world. And when we feel like we aren't guided, sometimes some divine intervention comes and saves us. I don't know. I just had to share this experience with you guys. I feel like at the halfway point, we've talked about so many eerie, creepy, dark things. And while this story is chilling, I feel as though it is for all the right reasons. And so I'm very, very curious to hear from you guys what you think of this experience. But essentially, that is it for today's video. What do you guys think of this experience? Please, please, please comment down below. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed, but you do enjoy my content, I would truly wholeheartedly really appreciate it if you go ahead and click that subscribe button, and please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. It really does help my channel and helps me to know what videos you are enjoying so that I can make more of them for you. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until tomorrow, I love you. Bye, guys.